As we've already mentioned before, the administration block on the bottom left side of your screen is one of the most important you're going to need to know how to operate. Now, other tutorials will handle these individuals in detail, but I want to do an overview and show you what each one of these does in general. First, of course, is to turn editing on. That's the same thing as up here, turn editing on. So you can always click it there so you can actually edit your class. And when it's on, obviously you can turn it off. The settings tab is particularly interesting. When you click this, it'll take you to the general framework for the class. Now, you probably want to not mess with the full name and the short name. These have already been assigned for you in your class. But the course description, you'll want to add that from what you have in the syllabus. This description, this course, I can type right, does this and that. Just provide the course description from your syllabus. You can choose between a weekly format. There's all kind of formats. There's your LAM, SCORM, Social, Topics, Weekly. The one you are probably always going to use is weekly. That's every single week you have a new block. There's a Topics format, which doesn't come up each individual week. That's what it'd be if you want to have people work on different topics at the same time. There's also a social format, which is basically a big discussion board. So almost everything you do is most likely going to be weekly. Number of weeks is 11. We typically leave it at 11 to give you the 10 weeks of instruction plus the 11th week for exams. Course, you can also do a 12th week if you want. If you want a week 0 that you can add like syllabus and things like that in that don't actually count. Course start date, you can set that obviously. Hidden sections, the sections that are not yet available to students, do you want to show them in a collapsed form or do you want it to be completely invisible? So they can't see them at all if they're hidden. Number of news items to show, that's self-explanatory. Do you want students to be able to see their grades as they go on? We typically leave that at yes, but if you don't want them to see it, you can take that out. Activity reports, we're going to talk about activity reports later. Do you want students to be able to see those or not? And then you can specify the maximum upload size. If it's a meta course, pretty much leave this at no. We'll have an entire set of tutorials on meta courses later on. Enrollment plugin, we're pretty much right now making everything internal enrollment. So we decide we don't want students to be able to enroll themselves and not enroll themselves. And the default side, of course, they're going to be by students by default. Course enrollable, yes, so that way students can actually enroll or not. And then limited duration. These, let's see, and just go through enrollment expiry notification. You can leave that standard as it is. Groups mode, again, we can define whether or not there's going to be groups. If you want to force people into groups, we've already set those into different places. Then available to course, is it available to students or not? If you want to give an enrollment key, typically we don't do that because we in the administration are going to assign students. Force a language, it's not a big deal now because we're only doing English. That may become a big deal later on. And if you ever want to rename, like if you don't want to be called instructor, you don't want to be called students, you can give them different names. Anyway, and then when you're done, you can save your changes. And then the course will take those particular settings. Now, if you go down the list further, assign roles. This isn't something you have to worry about too much. A lot of this has been taken care of for you. So, for example, you have 4 students here. Who's the instructor, who are guests, etc. This has all been done for you already. Grades, we're going to talk about more in detail in another tutorial, but again, it's kind of self-explanatory. This tells you can choose how to look at the different grades, how to actually do grading. Will be done there. Groups, another tutorial on that, how to define individual groups, what all is there. You can make backups. It may be useful every once in a while. The actual IT company that hosts this whole thing makes backups for us, but it may be very useful for you to keep, for you to make infrequent backups of your courses. One of the benefits of this is if you ever want to create another course, you can always create a backup of this course and then restore it into a new course, have an exact copy, and a lot of the material you'll have will already be there to give you a good skeleton to work out with, or if there's some common assignments, or perhaps you want to make a backup so that you can keep the quiz questions, so that may prove useful to you. Likewise, the restore will let you restore once you've done a backup. And you can import questions, you can import students, things like that, import groups from other courses that you've taught. The reset feature, you're probably not going to need to use, but basically that wipes out all the data. You keep your students, you keep your groups, you keep your lectures, and keep your resources, but everything anybody's done in the course goes away. Reports is basically you can see all the logs in all the different ways. Activity reports, participation reports. You can see, for example, for everyone in the class, or you can focus on just one individual student, what they've been doing. You can focus on every day that the course has been open or a particular day. You can look at all the activities you've done or just a specific done, all the individual actions that have been done or specific actions, and then you can get the specific logs and lets you analyze what's going on in your course. So you can see a lot of different ways and all those things. The questions bank, that's where you create the questions for your quizzes. We have an entire tutorial to help you understand how to do that. Going on down some more is the file manager. Again, we have an entire course on how to do the file manager. You want to get really good at that. That lets you determine what is and is not available to students and the different files you're going to use. Unenroll me from the course. Obviously, you don't need to worry about that since you're not going to be enrolling or unenrolling yourself. And then the profile. We have an entire tutorial on the profile. But you want to make sure you make your own profile. It tells you your role. You can write messages. You can write emails to people. Here is linked to your blogs, your notes, your own activity reports, any forum posts you've done, etc. are all in your profile. So again, I would just encourage you to get yourself familiar with this administration block, because that's where you're going to be doing a lot of your work from as an instructor.